Well, thanks a lot for staying with us here on Sunrise Live on Eon this Thursday morning. Really, as we continue with the show, quite rightfully looking at buying property in South Africa. And I know that it requires preparation as well as a guide which explains the process of buying property and how to find houses for sale. So, joining us in the studio this morning, we've got Hayesmark West, the Rand property professional, Deon Van Delan. We'll be talking through the process of buying a house as well as the property market in South Africa. We invite you as always to be part of our conversation. Remember to give us a call 011 447 1742 or 2570. Also feel free to leave your comments on our Facebook as well as on our Twitter pages. All property related questions this morning. Let's try to get to the bottom of that. Deon, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's good to be here. It's a big ask.
It is a big ask. It is a big ask. But you know what? It's so necessary, especially during this current economic climate. Many individuals are speaking about how the higher the interest rate, that actually affects whether it's a buyer's market or it's a seller's market. So given the situation in South Africa currently, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market?
I think we're moving towards a buyer's market, but the terminology can sometimes be confusing.
Yeah.
So a seller's market means the seller has all the say. In other words, there are not as many properties on the market, and buyers can't pick and choose. You know, there's not a lot to choose from. When it moves to a buyer's market, it's normally when the economy gets under pressure and the prices get under pressure, and then the buyer has more power to negotiate.
All right, because obviously you want to get rid of that property that you have and you cannot make exorbitant demands, especially around the houses, etc.
If you're serious about selling your property, and that's always the question, how serious are you about selling your property?
Yeah.
And if you're serious about selling your property, you've got to sell your property. You mustn't play around with prices and be foolish about things.
Speaking about not being foolish about things, a lot of us are caught in the terminology, and we're caught unaware, especially when buying the property. So let's take us from scratch. How do we do it? What's the process? How do we get to the point of selling to the actual purchase and the transfer into your name?
Look, I think the first, if we talk about buyers,
Yeah.
the very first thing that a buyer needs to know is what he can afford. And that process, I'm going to refer back to estate agents, professional estate agents a lot this morning. And most of them are well trained by this time. The industry is highly regulated at the moment.
Yeah.
So the very first thing is you must approach an estate agent to find out what it is exactly, what can you buy and where can you buy. The very next step is then to get to the internet. There are a few very user-friendly, if I can put it that way, property portals, and you can go and find your property once you know. Let's just talk about $1 million for argument's sake this morning. If you can buy a property for $1 million, you can switch on the internet and you can look through what is available in your price bracket.
Yeah.
Your estate agent's name and number will be on there, and that is your next port of call. So you pick up the phone, you speak to the estate agents, hopefully they'll answer the phone. When they do answer the phone, they should from there on guide you through the process, show you the properties. You can then pick the property that you're interested in, and the step after that is to make a written offer on the property.
And then, of course, then there's the next step of actually getting a bond, because many people do not necessarily have the hard cold cash to buy the house in cash.
Although you do have to have some cash.
Yeah.
So
is that the 10% now? So let's say that you take out a bond, then you need some form of a 10% deposit into the house that you want. So you're speaking about $1 million. I need about 100,000 rand in my account.
There's a bit more to that, but you know, don't be mistaken. Banks still do give 100% bonds.
Okay.
That is not out of the question. It's all about affordability, and if you manage your financial affairs in a good way, and the bank can be proud of the numbers that we put on the table when we apply for a bond for you, or we also use professional people to apply for the bond. And if they're happy with what they see there, 100% bond is not out of the question.
But do they want to see money in my account?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
What you do need to have access to is some money, because there are hidden costs that your estate agent should be telling you about.
Ooh, great. We're going to get into the hidden costs that the estate agent should be telling us about. But first of all, let's tackle this issue of an access bond, because once you've got the bond in itself, there's certain things that you don't even know that you've got access to, where you can actually withdraw money within the bond. The access bond, how does it work?
Okay. In order to answer that intelligently, I have to explain to you how a bond works.
Yes.
So normally a bond is over a long-term period, say 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Okay. So the first half of that period that you are paying back this money, the first 10 years, you mainly pay interest. And there's a lot of savings you can make, and we can chat about that a little bit later. But there's a lot of savings you can make. You can only withdraw money from your bond that you've actually paid into the bond. The bank will charge you interest on a monthly basis, and that money you can't touch, because that is the cost. That is the cost of the bond. So let's say, for instance, your payment on a monthly basis is 10,000 Rand. If you just pay the 10,000 Rand plus interest, in the first 10 years, you're not going to put a dent in the capital that the bank has lent you.
But if I pay 20,000 Rand into that?
If you pay 20,000 Rand, there would be 10,000 that you have access to.
Any time that I want it?
Any time that you want it.
So it's like an investment account that I can withdraw from?
It's like an overdraft facility.
Okay.
It's like an overdraft facility. And I must tell you this, it is probably, a home loan is probably one of the cheapest finance options that you can acquire.
Sure.
So people that get annual bonuses, your bonus should go into your home loan.
Ah.
You should pay it in there,
Yeah.
especially if you don't use it immediately. What people also don't realize is, sometimes, oftentimes we get increases on an annual basis. Your home loan debit order from the bank will stay fixed until you change it. So the bank will charge you only the minimum amount to service your bond and to obviously keep everything in place. But if you get an annual increase of say 5% or 4% or whatever, you should take a portion of that and increase your debit order at the bank.
And that allows you to get the access and allows you to withdraw against
It goes through as capital.
Yeah.
Any extra that you can pay goes through as capital.
Sure. Tell us about the fees though, because I want us to get into the issue around some of the fees that we do not necessarily know. So we think that we need that deposit if you're not getting that 100% bond. You need that deposit. Once the deposit, you've got it, everything's done. And then they tell you, the lawyers, you sit with the lawyers and the lawyers tell you, but you've got transfer fees and you've got registration fees. Tell us about that.
There are two portions of fees that you pay to lawyer. Well, actually three.
Yeah.
The first two fees that you need to know about is the one is transfer duty, and transfer duty is a tax. You pay that to SARS, and your conveyancing attorney will actually.
Can I not claim that back?
You probably can, but I don't want to know about your tax affairs this morning.
Okay. So you can claim it back if you are good.
Well, I don't want to get into that. I'm not a specialist on tax.
Okay.
It's a tax.
It is a tax
and it has to be paid.
Okay.
The transfer costs is actually the cost that you pay to the attorney to actually do the job. So that gets the property into your name, and then there are postage and petties and other small stuff.
But then you see, once you've got that 10% deposit, where would you recommend that you get the money from to actually pay off those fees?
The best way to do it is
Yeah.
to save up that money before you actually pay it,
Okay.
before you actually get the home.
Yeah.
Because the last thing that you want is to be all excited about this fantastic new home that you're going to get, and then
And
get
you
all these
realize
ugly
you're in
surprises.
over your head with debt.
Yes.
Okay, tell us about if a deal should go wrong.
There's
Let me say that.
there's one more cost that I need to tell you about.
What does that cost?
The bank also charges you a fee for registering your bond.
Okay.
So it's normally two sets of attorneys. In general, it's not the same attorney that these costs are paid for. But estate agents have lists issued by attorneys that will give you exactly what those costs is, or very close to it.
And if a deal goes wrong?
A deal goes wrong. I just said to you a little bit earlier that the industry is highly regulated. Your conveyancer, your estate agent is your witness because he went there the first day you saw the place. And if you say a deal goes wrong, let's say we come to a property where there was a stove and there was a Zozo at the back of the property, and now
It's all gone.
And
Or there was a washing machine and then it's completely gone. What happens then?
The estate agent, and I'm keep on referring back to them, the estate agent is your witness. So he goes into the property and you have to get what you actually bought that day. So whatever was there the day you saw the property, unless it was specifically specifically told to you that this is not part of the sale, and even if when that is said at the day you view the property, it has to be written down in the offer to purchase that you do.
Okay.
But if there's an issue like that, your first port of call is your conveyancer.
Yeah.
And you as a buyer can actually
Can I put a stop to everything?
You can put a stop to everything. You can delay the process. You can ask people to hold their horses until everything is sorted out. Yes, definitely.
I've got some questions that came in from viewers this morning, and actually I was given a sample of the Facebook questions. I've got one such. There were Hamid Singh saying that are properties near the coastline more expensive, and what would the average cost be?
Just ask me that again.
It's are properties near the coastline more expensive, or are they more affordable?
I would think, I'm not sure I understand the question.
So if I'm buying a house by the
Yeah.
beach, would it be cheaper to buy it by the coast or to buy it inland?
No, property values are determined from a it's a scientific process. We don't
Okay.
guess these prices anymore.
Oh.
No, we don't guess these prices. It's based on statistics. But coastal properties are generally more expensive than inland, definitely.
And then for an individual, for example, such as Nico Boss, speaking about what happens if I don't have money anymore to pay for my bond. If I go unemployed, if I lose my job, what happens then?
The first people that suffer when that happens, besides yourself, is the bank.
Okay.
Those are the people that took the risk. And what I always say to people is you have to speak to your banker.
Okay.
Okay. The bank...
Communicate it up front.
You have to do that. And if you see this accident, if you see this disaster coming in your life, don't wait until it's too late. I have seen more than once that people can't catch up a bond once they've fallen into arrears.
Sure.
So don't let that happen. If you see that there's a problem, or you think you're going to lose your job, or you have lost your job, the first place that you have to go to is go to your bank. And the banks more often than not, will try and assist you because they also have a risk to mitigate.
Well, do you know what? We have to leave our conversation there this morning, but thank you so much. Quite enlightening and informative, looking at if you want to buy a property, there are various steps to follow, but most importantly, be well prepared and aware. Deon Van Delan giving us more insight into the property market as well as how to purchase houses. For more information, go to hazemark.com and you'll be able to find out and also get a hold of Deon so that you can get insight into buying a property. For now, however, it is 7 o'clock. That means it's time to hand you over to Mark Chase, who's standing by to give us the latest in the news. Over to you, Mark.